Hello guys, welcome to this new video, and this time we are going to compare two screens, QSUN IPS and Amoled, but some will wonder what they are. What is IPS and what is Amoled? What are its characteristics and everything? Before we do this comparison, we are going to see the IPS screens. They are LCD 2.0 screens, or second generation flat screen. IPS are quite well reputed for, so you have better viewing angle. And apart from that, so it has better resolution and they can achieve 4K or as much as possible. Its main manufacturers have been LG and Japan Display, which is Sony. Its main characteristics of IPS screens have been their angles of vision. How can you appreciate it? It doesn't change the colors that much. Apart are also their white colors. They are quite pure, tambien la intensidad de colors. They are quite natural. And lastly, for what has better brightness. Now we begin to see through the Amoled screens. They are screens manufactured by Samsung, which has better diode array. Compared to current old, they have a higher intensity and much more vivid colors. It is also very good on dark colors and blacks. Its main characteristics is that the black colors, they are totally off, which therefore helps to save a lot of battery, and also it has been that they are quite thin compared to the IPS. And now we start to go a little deeper and we will explain more in detail between these two panels. Let's talk about white colors. In the Amoled we see that the white is turning to blue, but although current Amoled displays they have improved that defect even so. In this case, the old one's Amoled, we can notice that this white is turning to blue. Instead with the Amoled, sorry for the IPS, we see that white is quite pure. Now we go with the colors, dark and black. In this the IPS, it is very far for this kind of dark colors to arrive, because if we turn off the lights, we see that the IPS, black and dark colors, they are like throwing a gray tone. While I grind it, if we focus it well, they are totally off. And if you want, I'll show you. In this example, if we turn on the cell phones, let's turn on the S2, and look what only been used the necessary colors that will broadcast the screen. Like como vimos, all other colors are totally muted, only turns on when needed. Instead, if we turn on the J5, we see that all this is on, and therefore there is a battery consumption. Now we go with a color test. Let's start the test. Normally white starts, and as we see, in the Amoled it is pulling a blue tone, and while the IPS, it's totally white. This red is much purer, much more alive in Amoled than in the IPS, but still, I don't know what you think, but I notice that in Amoled the eyes are much more alive. In the orange colors the Amoled continues to win, so I say that this type of yellow is in the IPS, that in this one that is oversaturated. The greens in this sense, it can be said that the Amoled did win in that sense. I don't know what you think. The blues, this IPS blue is much more natural than this of the Super Amoled. In the IPS it is also gaining in this sense. In the color purple too. Goen. Vamos a ver cuál gan esta imagen oscura. In the Amoled, as we can observe, in their colors are much more vivid. That the Amoled, or if we go more detailed, are totally off. And instead with the IPS, we see that the colors are much more natural. And well, and obviously the dark colors are on, and because in this sense he won them. IPS in this next is a landscape. As we see in the IPS, we see that they are a little more opaque. The colors and everything. And instead with the Amoled we see that, which already looks like much more intense, colors much more vivid, and if we buy it in source we see that it was Amoled. One on this picture. In this next we see that Amoled is due. Colors much more vivid. But they are almost tied with the IPS. The only difference is that they are much more natural. Then you can tell it's a tie. And in this last comparison we see that in Amoled its colors are alive. Actually, but then we see as a small saturation of a green color. Let's compare with the IPS, that we see that they are really white and it can be said that the IPS won in this comparison of images. Now we go with a comparison of. Now in this comparison, we see how are the colors themselves. Which of the two is better? But, as we see there, in the Amoled, the colors have always been very vivid. Instead with the IPS, the colors are much more natural, and we are going to see the last comparison. Finally is the durability of the screens. There is a problem in the Amoled. And in this case we see that this already has a ghost screen problem. That is to say, it remains as some things or some lines, that this can no longer disappear. A small problem occurs in the IPS, but it is due to the heating because if we can notice a small stain, as you can see here. But there is a problem that has had sido and su corto tiempo de vida. In Amoled usually, it has around a few years that it lasts. These screens, up to the maximum, have been up to 3 or 4 years, depending on how you have it well treated. On the other hand, the IPS can last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And now we go. And some people are going to wonder, and how will we identify? No need to turn on the phone, an Amoled screen and a screen. Well, this is a method to know at first glance if it is an Amoled or an IPS. In the Amoled we see that the display, it is quite even and has a blue tone. In the IPS, we see that it is as a separate medium. Pero on así vimos QL. Tone is pulling gray. And this is quite an easy method to identify if it is an Amoled or an IPS. And now we are past in the conclusions. Both in IPS and in Amoled, they are pretty cool. Both screens behave very well in response, but still, let's say in colors. Dark in the Amoled, and if we want white colors, clearer in the IPS, but in the white colors it has improved a lot. And Samsung has worked hard to improve in these types of aspects, but that still has a lot to improve. The ghost screen defect. I also know that the IPS is happening that, but that happens on some devices, and then according to the manufacturer. This display is manufactured by LG, and well, I have not had any problem to say so. Ghost screen. See which one I keep. I would say that in the IPS, since these are quite durable and they are much more resistant. Given that, we link you have to be very careful. And that's all, friends. If you liked, subscribe my channel and like, and see you for the next one.